Coming up on Mountain News this morning, people will head to the polls today to figure out who will be running for some of the state's top offices in November. And we take a look at what officials are doing to help to relieve the state's overburdened foster care system. And used needles are continuing to pop up in popular places. We have more on how to be careful when you're outside this summer.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Taylor Upchurch. Today is Tuesday, May 21st. Let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, what can voters expect today?
Expect a beautiful forecast, a beautiful start to the day, and we're going to continue to see that trend all the way through today. Let's start in Pikeville this morning. Pikeville Medical Center camera, all quiet, a few clouds. For the most part, though, a beautiful start to the day. Going back to Hazard, and you can see outside the WMT studios, some sunshine starting to filter in behind those clouds. Temperatures in the 50s across the board, from 50 in Moorhead to 56 in London. Appcast today, you can download that for free on all the app stores. Just search WYMT weather. Sunshine and lots of it. Temperatures in the upper 70s by the end of the day. The rest of the forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Taylor?
Thanks, Brandon. The May primary is officially underway. One of the most closely watched races will be who is on the Democratic ticket in the governor's race come November. Rocky Adkins, Andy Beshear, Adam Edelin, and Jeff Young will be the four names to choose from when you head to the polls today. WYMT's Connor James has more.
With low voter turnout expected, every vote will count come Tuesday. On the Democrat side, it is a packed field. House Minority Leader Rocky Adkins spent his final day in Eastern Kentucky.
Now, rural Kentucky, regardless of whether you're in Western Kentucky or Eastern Kentucky, they're ready to have a seat at the table.
He's strumming to the tune of Knowing Blue Collar Roots.
They're ready for somebody that understands rural Kentucky. They're ready for a rural Kentucky governor.
Many times in politics, it's a name game. If you have the name recognition, you fare better in the polls.
I'm Andy Beshear. Adam Edelin, Democrat for governor.
And the ads in this race became evident of that. Attorney General Andy Beshear beats to the drum of fighting for the so-called underdog Kentuckian.
Well, I believe that Governor Bevin has been a disaster as a governor. Everything from the name-calling and bullying.
He spent the past two General Assemblies and hours in the courtroom battling with Governor Bevin's administration over the pension bill and abortion laws.
Everybody talks about education, but I was the only person who went to bat to protect our teachers and ensure that their pensions weren't cut.
Adam Edelin is returning to politics following a 2015 loss in his state auditor's re-election bid.
The Frankfort politicians didn't unlearn the trick of robbing from the fund to balance the budget.
According to campaign finance disclosure information, it appears he raised more money than his challengers. But the question is, will that translate to a win?
Retired engineer Jeff Young is also on the ticket. He's become a familiar name in Kentucky politics, but has never won. Polls opened at 6 a.m. and will close tonight at 6 p.m. We'll have an election coverage throughout the evening on WYMT and WYMT.com. If you see any suspicious voting-related activity, call the Attorney General's hotline at 1-800-328-VOTE. And there are several other statewide races, too. 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans are running for Secretary of State, including former Miss America Heather French Henry. She's facing 2 Eastern Kentuckians, Jason Belcher and Jason Griffith. Current Attorney General Andy Beshear is not running for re-election since he's running for governor. In that race, Republicans will choose between Daniel Cameron and Will Schroeder. Both say they'll stand with President Trump's agenda. Former Attorney General, House Speaker, and Floyd County native Greg Stumbo is running unopposed on the Democratic side. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is leading the push to increase the smoking age from 18 to 21. His measure would not only cover tobacco products, but e-cigarettes and vapor products as well. Kentucky's senior senator says they have become a completely new health epidemic. The bluegrass consistently ranks among the highest cancer rates in the country. Kentucky's overburdened foster care system, the problem hasn't gone away. Right now, there are more than 20,000 children in Kentucky in active abuse or neglect cases. But there's one program helping them through the system. Miranda Combs shows us the volunteers appointed by the court to work with these children.
The number of children in Kentucky being abused and neglected will make your stomach hurt. Last year, there were 26,000 cases of abuse and neglect that were court active, up almost double from just a few years ago.
The average case runs about 2 years.
Can you imagine the amount of social workers and foster home changes a child would have to go through over a 2-year period? Here's just one example. A newborn went to 7 foster homes in Fayette County in his first 7 months of life. On the day of his adoption, the judge told those in the courtroom if it hadn't been for CASA, this happy ending wouldn't have happened.
Here's what I have observed. Here is what I have observed. Here is what the child is telling me.
CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate. They stay with 1 or 2 children tops from the beginning to the end of the court process. They are the child's friend, a stable ally in an incredibly unstable environment. They work alongside social workers, but they are volunteers, not pushed and pulled with dozens of cases like social workers can be. CASA volunteers also get more information than social workers. They have access to medical records, school records, and more.
I think you can say we bring all the pieces together of the puzzle and sort of began to put it together.
And here's CASA's newest piece to the puzzle.
To the visit, she's happy. She's happiest when she's working. She loves to work.
Matilda is the first dog in Kentucky trained specifically for CASA kids.
I'm not her client. Her client are the kids.
Matilda can go with the CASA volunteer on visitations to foster homes, and she can come to family court on those awful days when kids have to show up too.
They will open up and tell this dog things that they maybe won't tell other people. A child has to testify in front of their perpetrator, which is often known to them. Could be mom, could be dad. This dog can go in with the child. They can take control of her leash. She can downstay for 4 hours. It provides comfort to them.
Some of the things young children have whispered to Matilda are unspeakable truths of abuse.
And then the little girl I was telling you about we visited, but she had not disclosed anything. She laid down on the floor with her. She said she wanted her in her room. And so she laid on the rug in her room. And so she said, "Oh, Matilda, I love you so much." She said, "You're so nice to me."
And she gives courage.
After meeting with Matilda, he wrote a letter to the judge saying that he never wants to be hit again.
She's trained to bring tissues to children. She can put her head on laps and go in for a hug. They are tricks, but Matilda's real gift to her kids are her instincts to understand the children who don't understand what's happening themselves.
CASA does such a good job for us, and by having Matilda added to their team, it's wonderful because, as you've heard, Matilda is helping a particular child on my docket who has post-traumatic stress syndrome for the trauma that the little thing has experienced in his life.
Family court judge Kathy Stein says she needs CASA because the volunteers come in with no baggage, just support for the child. And Matilda, well, everyone needs her, even the judge.
There's something about a dog, particularly this trained dog, but the instincts that these animals have to calm you, to put you at ease, and to put some joy in your life.
In Lexington, Miranda Combs, WYMT Mountain News.
Currently, CASA operates in 56 Kentucky counties. They hope to be in 80 by 2021. And tensions are climbing in the Middle East following a presidential tweet warning Iran not to pick a fight. President Trump tweeted, "If Iran wants to fight, that will be the official end of Iran. Never threaten the United States again." His message followed a rocket attack that U.S. officials tell CBS News was likely aimed at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. The State Department pulled non-essential personnel out of the embassy last week amid reports Iranian-backed elements may target Americans. Meanwhile, a judge is operating President Trump's accounting firm to hand over records to Congress. The federal district judge told the accounting firm Mazars it needs to turn over the president's accounting records from before he was president to the Democratic-controlled House Oversight Committee. A person familiar with the case says President Trump's legal team plans to appeal. And the number of migrants attempting to cross the border from Mexico into the U.S. is at an all-time high. Authorities are concerned about the increase in vulnerable populations like children crossing the border, especially as temperatures climb. This comes following a 16-year-old migrant boy was found dead in detention, though the cause is still unknown. This is the 5th death of a migrant minor in U.S. custody since November. Measles cases are still increasing in the U.S., and the Centers for Disease Control shared Monday in its latest count that 880 cases have been reported as of Friday. 24 states are reporting cases, and most of those cases are in New York. Officials have attributed the climbing numbers to misinformation about vaccines. CDC officials say when taken into the recommended 2 doses, the MMR vaccine is 97% effective at preventing measles. And with the unofficial start of summer this weekend, more people are heading outside. But officials urge caution for both adults and children. Used needles are continuing to pop up in popular places. Local officials as well as health departments are asking people to look before you step because you never know where one might be tossed.
Especially this time of year, it's around Memorial Day, schools letting out, people's cleaning up cemeteries. And unfortunately, as people get to cleaning cemeteries and more outside during the summer months, that unfortunately they do find needles.
If you find a needle, make sure to report it to local law enforcement. And now let's send it over to Brandon for another look at your weather.
Forecast this morning, a beautiful start to the day. A little bit on the cool side for some folks. Grab a light jacket, you won't need it later. Sunshine getting ready to come through the clouds here on Buffalo Mountain. We go to McKee this morning, starting to lighten up just a little bit there downtown in Jackson County. And you can see a fairly quiet night. Clean sweeps on line pinpoint Doppler radar. No rain here. Unfortunately, our neighbors to the west, back out of the parts of Missouri and Arkansas, that's not so much the case. And then we're going to continue to watch that for them as well. Temperatures in the 50s area-wide this morning. Your temperature change anywhere from 9 to almost 20 degrees cooler than it was this time yesterday. Out the door forecast features, again, temperatures climbing rather quickly into the upper 70s by this afternoon. Taylor?
Thank you, Brandon. We'll have stories trending on WYMT.com next. Thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning. Coming up, a close encounter with a family of bears in Tennessee gives one Kentucky man a scare.